Picture this. It's the summer of 1978 in New York City. A brand new skyscraper is just glittering in the Manhattan skyline. It's this huge symbol of modern engineering. But deep inside the mind of the man who designed it, there's a terrifying secret taking hold. It's a secret that could bring that entire skyscraper and a 10-block radius around it crashing right to the ground. This is the story of the 59-story crisis.
And that man was William Le Messier, one of the most celebrated structural engineers in America. He's talking about a fatal flaw, a mistake he just discovered in his own masterpiece, the new Citycorp Center. And the weight of that knowledge, well, it was his and his alone.
You see, this wasn't just about a building, about steel and glass. 200,000. That is the number of people living and working right there in the immediate area. 200,000 lives were just hanging in the balance, and they had absolutely no idea, all because of one single hidden weakness.
And the crazy thing is, the threat wasn't some rare earthquake or some bizarre freak event. No, his new calculations showed the tower could be toppled by a storm that had a 1 in 16 chance of hitting any given year. And with hurricane season just weeks away, you can bet the clock was ticking.
So, to really understand the flaw, we've got to go back a bit and look at why this building was so revolutionary in the first place. It really was a marvel of design, and it was born from a very, very unique problem on the ground.
So what was the problem? A church. St. Peter's Church sat right on a corner of the land that Citycorp absolutely had to have. So the solution was, well, it was brilliant. Instead of putting the main support columns at the corners like pretty much every other skyscraper, Le Messier placed 4 gigantic stilts right in the middle of each side. This lifted the whole tower 114 feet into the air, allowing the corners to just hang right over the new church. It literally stood on stilts.
And this design was just packed with innovations. You had the entire load of the building being funneled down to those stilts through this clever exoskeleton of huge V-shaped braces. And then, way up at the top, there was a 400-ton block of concrete floating on a film of oil. It's called a tuned mass damper, and its whole job was to counteract the building's sway and keep the people inside from feeling it.
As you can imagine, the press and the entire architectural world were just in awe. They called it daring, lightweight, a futuristic masterpiece, which of course just makes the secret flaw hiding at its heart that much more shocking.
So how did this celebrated design become a potential catastrophe? Well, it didn't start with a bang. It started with a whisper. Actually, it started with a question from a curious college student. Right, so how could a building that was designed to handle hurricane-force winds all of a sudden become so incredibly vulnerable to a storm that could happen almost any year?
It was basically a 3-part perfect storm of failure. First, that student asks a question about something called quartering winds. That's winds that hit the building's corners instead of flat on. So Le Messier runs the numbers and makes a horrifying discovery. These specific winds increase the stress on the building's joints by 40%. But then came the real gut punch. He found out that during construction, the super strong welded joints he had designed had been swapped out for weaker, cheaper bolted joints.
Okay, so you can really see the problem here. The original design, all the calculations, they only accounted for winds hitting the flat faces of the building. Simple enough. But when the winds smashed into the corners, it created a totally different kind of force. This immense tension on joints that were never ever designed to handle it. And the whole crisis, really, it all came down to this one simple change. Welded joints are incredibly strong. They make 2 pieces of steel into one. But bolted joints, they're much weaker, and they concentrate all that force onto just the bolts themselves. The switch was approved by his own New York office, but he never knew about it. This wasn't a calculation error. It was a communication catastrophe.
And here's where the math gets truly terrifying. That 40% increase in wind stress from the cornering winds, it didn't just add 40% more force to the bolts. No. Because of the way the forces worked, it created a staggering 160% increase in the force that was trying to tear those bolts apart. The building's entire margin of safety was gone.
So Le Messier knew his building could collapse. He could have stayed silent and just prayed. Or he could risk his entire career, his reputation, everything to save it. For him, it wasn't really a choice. He had to act. And that's when this secret high-stakes race against time began.
This secret repair mission was given a code name Project Pandora, and the pressure was just insane. In late July, he confirms the flaw. By August 2nd, he's in a room telling Citycorp executives their brand new headquarters could fall down. Just 5 days after that, welders are secretly working inside the structure. And then, only a few weeks later, Hurricane Ella starts barreling up the coast.
Now, LeMessier walked into that meeting expecting to be fired, sued, just publicly disgraced. But instead, the Citycorp chairman, Walter Wriston, was unbelievably calm. He just listened, grabbed a yellow legal pad and said, "All wars are won by generals writing on yellow pads." His support was absolutely crucial. It meant the team could focus on the fix, not on playing the blame game.
The repair itself was this incredible clandestine operation. Every single night, after all the office workers went home, crews would move in. The welders worked from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m., reinforcing over 200 of those critical joints with massive 2-inch thick steel plates. And by the time the first employees started arriving the next morning, every single trace of their work was completely gone. The entire city was asleep, while its newest skyscraper was secretly being saved from collapse.
And let me tell you, the danger was very, very real. As the welders were racing against the clock, Hurricane Ella, a monster Category 4 storm, was heading right for New York City. They secretly drew up an evacuation plan for a 10-block radius. They were literally hours away from having to tell 200,000 people to run for their lives. And then, thankfully, at the last possible minute, Ella turned out to sea.
By October, the repairs were finally complete. The crisis was over, the building was secure. But the story's legacy and all of its powerful lessons, they were really just beginning.
Get this. For 17 years, this entire story, everything we've just talked about, remained a secret. The public had absolutely no idea until a 1995 article in the New Yorker magazine finally brought the 59-story crisis out into the light.
So how do we remember a story like this? How do we remember William LeMessier? Is he the hero who had the incredible integrity and courage to blow the whistle on himself? Or is he a warning, a symbol of that communication catastrophe, a reminder of how a flawed system can allow a critical design change to slip through the cracks?
And what about the building itself? Well, with those huge steel plates now welded over its joints, the Citycorp Center was totally transformed. It's now strong enough to withstand what they call a 700-year storm, which ironically makes it one of the most secure skyscrapers in the entire world.
And it all leaves us with this one last question to think about. In a profession where perfection is the goal, what is the true measure of integrity? Is it about designing something perfectly from the start? Or is it about having the incredible courage to admit a flaw and then doing whatever it takes to fix it, no matter the cost?